In this video, we're going to have more sketching exercises, this time sketching ellipses. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start our clock and we're going to go for a minute, a straight minute, drawing ellipses. Ellipses around a point. So I got a dot and I got an ellipse. Now, the interesting part about an ellipse is that an ellipse is a circle shown in perspective, which is actually quite important to us. Ellipses are going to show up in many of our engineering design sketches. So we really want to learn how to do this. One of the things we can do as we practice this is we can have ellipses changing in how shallow they are. It's kind of what I have going on there. I do like to draw the point though and try to draw an ellipse around it, because usually in an engineering design setting I'm trying to get an ellipse in a particular place. Not just a good ellipse, but an ellipse in the right place. Alright, so that's about 1 minute there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to practice by drawing some confident rectangles, not some confident squares as we did with the circles, but now my ellipse needs to touch all of those sides in the middle of them. So I want to learn to do this with less construction lines, less obvious construction lines. So the way to do that is to use the ballpoint pen and to just go lightly, and to find the centers either without drawing them or drawing them very lightly. Okay, about done with my 2 minutes there. I have time for one more quick one. Alright, so that's the first 2 minutes. The next thing that we want to do then is we want to put that aside. The thing I want to do then is some cylinders. And to do some cylinders, I want to kind of have a strategy with this. So I'm going to draw 5 light construction lines. And I'm going to put 5 cylinders on here. And what I want to do is I want to start with a relatively tall cylinder, like this. We'll go clean it up in just a second. One of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have a more squished ellipse here than I am here, because that's what something would look like in perspective. So now I'm going to get slightly smaller and slightly wider. Okay, so here's a slightly wider one. Okay, let's do the same thing. Let's get slightly wider. And let's get slightly wider. Alright, so these are my 5 cylinders that I've made. And what I want to do now is just kind of go in there and clean them up. And to do that, I want to darken my edge. You can see my cylinder starting to have more of a shape to it, and I need to darken this front edge at least a little bit in order to have that right. Now a cylinder like this is going to have some sort of shadow that goes in that direction, like that, and I'm just going to cross hatch that, practicing my parallel lines, going all the way from one edge of the shadow to the other edge of the shadow. Okay. Alright, then on this one I want to do the same thing. Darken that side, come down the edge, okay, around this edge, just straightening it, not straightening it up, just darkening it up. And then of course I want to try a shadow again, because that gives it some good depth. One of the things I'm realizing with my shadows is I'm having kind of a hard time at the very top of my shadow getting the curvature to look right. So that's something I kind of want to improve as I work on the sketching. Okay. All right, so on this one, we're going to get a nice confident line from the top to the bottom and put in that curvature there, and this curvature over here, drawing a little bit of that. And let's get a shadow on that. That top looks a little bit better than my other tops. Practicing my parallel lines with the hatches as I put a shadow in there. Okay, now same thing here, confident lines. Get me my parallel cylinder edges. The outside edges can be a little darker than those inside edges. Of course, my shadow is getting wider and shorter at this point because my cylinder is getting wider and shorter. All right. Last one. Now the idea here with this video is that you're following along and that you're doing the same kinds of work that I'm doing. And you're practicing. It really does take sketching every day to get good at it. So if I had some time, more time in my sketching here, I would put some sort of shadow down these sides to make it more obvious that we're talking about a cylinder. But I'm not going to do that right now because I want to move on to the last piece here, which is that, I guess I can do it on this one. I want to make 5 more cylinders, getting myself a construction line that I'm going to do this on. And what I want to do is create a small flat ellipse up here and a larger, less flat ellipse down here, and create a cone. Now what I want to do is I want to get a little bit less cone-like, but I still want to be a cone. By the time I get to this center one, I want this one to be a cylinder. Now what I want to do is invert this, start to get a little bit bigger on the top and a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller on the bottom. Okay, so this is what I wanted to do, is see if I could make some of those. I'm going to go in and darken up my lines. Doing this slightly quicker now, just to try to get done within my 10 minutes. I'm not looking at the clock, so I'm not actually sure how long it's been. So you can see the circles and the lines and ellipses are coming together to create these things. So I really do feel like I need to put a shadow on here so that I can show that I understand what's going on with the shadow. My shadow should be thinner. That's not a super great one. This one should be parallel. Okay, then my shadows get a little bit harder to deal with here when I have the inverted one. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in and add my parallel lines for my hatching fairly quick. I'm not very happy with myself on how fast I'm doing this, but I am trying to stick within my 10 minutes of sketching. And sometimes, you know, we got to do some fast sketches. So sometimes that's the best that we can do. And that's our activity for ellipses. What did we do? We started with trying to put an ellipse around a point, and you can kind of see that I need a lot of practice there. I did some ellipses going from flatter to less flat and then starting to get flat again. This is about where I'm thinking I'm almost looking like a circle at that point. Then I'm drawing ellipses within rectangles. And you can see they look more like footballs, which is not really great. So I know I got a lot of work to do there. Then I get over here and I've got 5 cylinders of different height and width. And then here I've practiced turning those into cones of deliberately changing sizes. So by the end of that activity, you're arriving at this, and this, and this.